Hello again, Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to preview Mississippi State's road trip to Ole Miss. This game is on Friday. You can catch it 2:30 Central on ABC or ESPN Plus. BetOnline favors Ole Miss as of Tuesday morning by 26 with an over-under of 61.5. As of Tuesday morning, that makes for an implied final score of Ole Miss 45, Mississippi State 17. My computer composite model favors Ole Miss by 28.5. Chase, the Rebels, more than likely had their playoff hopes dashed at Florida, exited that game banged up. Mississippi State lost again. It is winless in conference play. Is this a throw out the records? It's the Egg Bowl scenario, or does Ole Miss just have too much for Mississippi State if it comes to play? I guess that's a question we'll get to later, but I'll get your thoughts initially on this one.
Yeah, typically this is, the Egg Bowl is a game. We've seen some wild Egg Bowls over the years. Even when one team was better than the other, it was a close game and a fun game. So maybe we'll see that this Friday. And typically it's been a Thanksgiving Day game. So they moved it to Friday this year. I always liked having that game to watch after I ate my Thanksgiving meal. But we'll have to wait Friday this year for the Egg Bowl.
Looking forward to it. Here the matchup is by the numbers. Let's start with Mississippi State's offense against Ole Miss's defense. Points per game. I'll read State and then Ole Miss. 26.9 to 13.9 per rushing play. 5.2 to 3.6. Passing play 6.4 to 5.2. Turnover rate 2.1% to 2.5. And sack rate 9.5% to 11%. I think the big thing here is State protecting Michael Van Buren against a very talented Ole Miss pass rush. Dudes in the trenches who are going to play in the NFL. Van Buren's done well. If State has found a running game with Devon Booth, and that's a by committee thing at times. The State offense has been, I think, a little pleasant surprise of this season, but I'm not sure they've faced a defense quite like they're going to see Saturday.
Yeah, you brought up a good point with the protection of Michael Van Buren. He's going to have time to work. They're going to have room for these running backs to run. I've been impressed with Van Buren. I mean, he's got over 1,600 yards. He's just been playing really half the season. And so I thought he's done well in the position that he was put in as a freshman to come in and lead this team. But, yeah, the offensive line is going to have to come ready to play because Van Buren is going to have time. I really love the defense for Ole Miss. They've been there a lot of the games. The pass rush has been really good. And so, this is going to be tough for Mississippi State to deal with the pressure. But also I'd like to see that run game get going again. And, I thought Florida was able to do some good things on Ole Miss. And maybe they kind of take that blueprint Mississippi State does of what Florida did and run the ball, mix in some passes as well. Because I think some things offensively are there for Mississippi State. It's just being able to consistently do those things.
Yeah, I'll walk that comment back a bit. Actually, State has played a pretty brutal defensive schedule now that I look at it. I'd forgotten. But this team has already seen Texas, Georgia, A&M, Tennessee. Missouri's got a pretty fair defense in its own right. So in fact, now that I think about it, probably no team in the country has faced a better defensive slate than State has, which makes what Van Buren and those guys have done so far probably a little bit more impressive. All right, BetOnline is your world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. That includes the Egg Bowl. With the largest selection of odds on everything football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today. Get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Let's flip sides of the matchup. Chase Robinson, Mississippi State's defense versus Ole Miss's offense. Here are the numbers. Points per game, 34.8 to 38.5. Yards per rushing play, 5.1 for both sides. Yards per passing play, 8.3 to 9.7. I think that's the worst pass defense in the league statistically against the best pass offense in the league statistically per snap. Turnover rates, 1.5% for each side. Sack rates, 2.5% to 6%. I think this has got to scare the pants off you from a Mississippi State standpoint because the way to beat Ole Miss, I think, is to really get pressure on Jaxson Dart. That's just not something that Mississippi State does. I think, league low sack total, and I think there's at least a dozen sacks between State and whoever's 15th. I'm sorry, I don't mean to harp on State here. The numbers are pretty glaring when you put them out here like this.
Yeah, they really are. And Ole Miss has been tremendous offensively. We know the weapons they have. We know Jaxson Dart. I thought they've been running the ball well. They've got a plethora of receivers to go to, and Mississippi State has not been able to stop anybody really defensively. And so the edge is definitely towards Ole Miss in this area. This is where they can really separate themselves, because again, I think Mississippi State can do some good things, and they will do some good things offensively in this game, but they're not going to be able to stop this high-powered offense of Ole Miss. And so I think this is where Ole Miss gets the favorite, is that they probably will be able to do whatever they want to do offensively in this game.
Yeah, let's get to picks and why. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a big win for Ole Miss. Again, they didn't come up with a win when they needed it the most against Florida. And so I feel like they're not going to lose back-to-back games. I feel like they go out there, they put together a good performance. They still want to show that they are a legit team. And so I think Ole Miss wins big in this year's Egg Bowl.
Yeah, these games are about motivation. That's hard to know where every team's head is. I'm sure State is going to want to win this game. I just question whether it's got the talent to compete with Ole Miss. Again, that matchup on the defense, you've seen Ole Miss really put a hurting on some good to decent defenses lately. That to me screams like if Ole Miss shows up, and look, Tre Harris's health is maybe going to be an issue. I wouldn't think he'd play this week. So that's something to watch. Maybe how healthy Ole Miss is in general is something to watch. Those are all questions, but I just think Ole Miss has got too much on defense for State. So look for the Rebels to win this one. All right, we'll be here to talk about it afterwards. 9:30 Central is our wrap-up show every Saturday night after SEC football. To get that, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you don't mind. That helps us out, and enable your notifications so you know when we produce videos. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We'll see you again soon with more content at Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.